and understand now this rather confusing state of affairs. Gauteng Road and Transport MEC Jacob Mamabolo is here to explain to us. MEC, good evening. It is very confusing. So explain to us what you think is actually happening here.
Well, and good evening and thanks for the opportunity. Let me just clarify very briefly that we as the provincial government are not in what I see being projected as a spat with anyone. All what we are saying is that the issues about the city of Joburg and how it runs its billing system, which is known to be deep in crisis and they've been presiding over that crisis, is a matter that in terms of the constitution and the laws of this country, is within the purview of the city of Joburg. The issues pertaining to property that the city has sold to Cedar Park, the city deals with its immovable assets. That doesn't involve any sphere of government. Thirdly, we are on record having said that the Gautrain and the entities that manage it, there's proof that has been provided, do not owe the city of Joburg any monies relating to the services that they provide.
So that money has been paid, those bills have been paid as far as you know?
Yes, and there's just been proof sent. I think you have just confirmed it to the public. And in any way, and the other point to clarify is this issue that has been raised that Gautrain is in a tenant-landlord relationship with Cedar Park or Regiment. We have acquired that land in terms of the legislation that's applicable and the documents were shown. And maybe the best example I can give is that rail lines, road networks that we run, we can't run a road or a rail line on a tenant landlord basis. You acquire full permanent rights on those issues because you can imagine if you set up a rail line and the landlord tomorrow is not happy with you, might simply say to you, pack your rail line or your road and go. So what is happening here is that when there's Gautrain acquired the land, which they bought for, which they bought for 160 million from the city of Joburg. There were arrangements that were made in which city of Joburg acquired parts of the land, which they then on their own, without the provincial government, they sold to Cedar Park. We have got nothing to do with that. The fact that you are in the same vicinity, in the same precinct, doesn't mean there's a landlord-tenant relationship. However, all what we have been saying is, while the city of Joburg shut the doors and said non-negotiable, they're not willing to talk to anyone, they're looking for their 8 million, and they closed the water. When that was done, the companies running Gautrain were left with no option. They had to seek relief of the court to get the water.
But surely, MEC, there's paperwork, there are documents, there are things to prove this. There's proof of payment when it comes to the water bills, when it comes to ownership of land. So where is all of this to say, here it is, so what are you talking about?
So just now as we're watching, so there's proof that I think the people...
Is that what you're taking to court?
Yeah, what we simply take into court is the city of Joburg has no reason to close the water, whether they use whatever reasons, but as far as we are concerned, there's no reason why they close the water, and that's why they must bring back the water. The proof has just been given, and we don't owe them, and we have said that. But even if that was the case, our Constitution, Chapter 3, the Constitution of the country, enjoins every sphere of government, every component of government, that in whatever that you do, please take the well-being, interests and needs of the people into account. So the city of Joburg, as a good organ of the state, would have reached out to all the people affected, sit down with them, have discussions and say, how can we help you to solve this problem? But what they're doing is that the mayor and the city are trying to drag the name of Gautrain, the provincial government, into this whole issue. And our view is they are trying to coerce and intimidate Gautrain and the province perhaps to get 8 million, because they also know they've ran a very poor billing system. You don't allow any client to
But the billing system issues came from before the current.
Well, I'm not talking political parties. I'm just talking the problem with the city.
But I'm just saying it's not there. Yeah. So this would go back way before Herman Mashaba and his time as well.
But the point is, so the billing system is it's a problem on record.
Yeah.
And therefore, having given this client up to 8 million, which really raises questions, how do you come now and try to sort your billing system in such a way that you put at risk the life and health of about 20,000 people who are using public transport? So all I'm saying is the best way to have dealt with this issue would have been to call the parties and say, let's talk, let's negotiate, let's find the best forward.
So
that's all what we say.
You're going to court with this issue now. Are you taking it to court?
So it's not the provincial government that is taking the matter to court, because the Constitution doesn't allow us to do that. So Mbombela, which is running Gautrain, were left with no option. They had to go to court. And in the midst of that, as the provincial government, were to support them, because we're supporting that, and we are waiting for the court to pronounce on the matter, because the city of Joburg has shut all the doors. There's no room for negotiation. There's no room for reaching out. There's no room even, because Gautrain is not only in Sandton. It has stations across the province. It's a good client. It's paying. It complies. So we're just surprised. Why is the city of Joburg dragging us into this matter, closing
Herman Mashaba seems to think there was something highly fishy about that agreement between Joburg Property Group on behalf of the city and Cedar Park. He says the issue that agreement was made in 2009. Joburg Property Group sold the land to Cedar Park. However, the transfer of the land was only registered in 2013. And he wants to know, he's asking, why would the city finance the sale of its own land to a private company?
So you can imagine the city's asking questions about its own properties, how it's dealing with the disposal of its own immovable assets. But the point we're making is, be that as it may, and it's within.
But it's its assets now. Yeah. But it's dating back to a time when they weren't its assets.
Yes, but the point is that this is the property exclusively of the city of Joburg. How it disposes and deals with its assets, it doesn't have to drag the names of anybody, the provincial government, Gautrain, and try to use these entities to create confusion on a matter that falls squarely on its shoulders. If there are allegations of corruption, let them be investigated.
Dating back to when it was an ANC system.
From whatever time. Let them be investigated. Let them be dealt with. But please leave Gautrain, leave the provincial government. They are not part of running the activities and operations of the city. If you are worried that you may not get your money from Cedar Park because you mismanaged your bill up to 8 million, you can't come and use the bully tactics and try to intimidate people and try to use Gautrain to pay a debt that does not belong to them. Okay. So the point we're making is the matter is before the courts. Let's wait for the court to make a decision.
But in this matter.
Yes, because the city of Joburg closed all doors for negotiations. The only thing we have is confidence in the court to resolve the matter.
Okay, thanks very much for that. That's Gautrain Road and Transport MEC Jacob Mamabolo.